things, and here we are. Nothing is stopped, I think, if you look at it, except, experiencing traffic. Everything else is, happening the way it is. Work is happening the way it is. Productivity is increased. People are learning even more than what they were doing, and so on. So, well, in drastic situations like this, I think we still become better when there is more. So that said, so me and team had, suggested me a topic to talk about employability, and where, whether it's skills or knowledge. Given that I've been in this industry for almost close to 20 years now, and in the role that I am, you like it or don't like it, every day we have to make hiring decisions. And the time when, I'm really involved in campus hiring, and that's when I really realized there's a huge gap to, move, the candidates, or, well, to say the graduate interns from university to an organization. And that's where I think there was this huge big barrage of programs which came up to say, how you can move people from campus to corporate, and so on and so forth. But the more I get closer to it, it just feels like more than all of those programs and so on, it's a lot of common sense that people will have to kind of look at and apply, which really is the differentiator. So this is how I'm going to schedule our next 45 minutes. I'm just going to talk about, the basics or the academics of skills and knowledge, and how that fits into the employability, and what are some of the common skills you may want to really delve upon. And by the end of it, I'll also probably, if there are any stories, I'm going to bring that to the forefront. And then you can ask me questions. And the question need not be just on this topic. It can be as broad as, AI to bot or whatever. Again, I'm not a technologist, but then I've been in HR, and you have to have the business acumen. So you can't be in HR and say, I don't want to learn business, or I don't want to learn technology. So whatever has rubbed on me, I'm going to share with you. And yeah, so that's how this is going to be. And if there's any, even after the session, if you guys think we should chat up, yeah, I should be pretty open, given that, there is no differentiation between weekends and weekdays now. So coming back to this topic, skills and knowledge, right? This is not a new word, and all of us have learned through our academics, through our experience, and so on. But the English meaning of skills really is the ability to do something really well. That is, having the expertise to do something really well. So that is where, what you're learning now becomes your skill, right? Yes, you are in your university, you're learning, but that's where you're developing your skill. And that's where, there's so much of emphasis where, where people say, develop your skill. But don't be surprised that even after you get into corporates, even now, like after 20 years, still, I get into programs to say, I have to develop my skill. And it is believed that, once you reach 30-ish age, your brain there's only so much the brain can take on, but that is when you got to train your brain to kind of take more. And hence people say after you're 30, every year you got to learn a new skill. And that is how you can really keep yourself relative in the environment that you are in. That's how you can keep yourself competitive, because today, especially in India, there's so much of competitiveness. And it is good. It is good, because otherwise, what's a joy, right? All of us, it'll be a very boring world. So competitive is good. But again, when I say skill and learn, don't stop learning. And after 30, your brains, there is the back of your brains that, I always use this as the back of the brain, because I've also studied about the brain-based coaching. So the back of the brain starts telling you that, yes, there's only so much you can do. But then the more you kind of sponge on and take it, that's how you start developing. For example, I am, it's 20 years I've been working. And in the last 5 years, every year I've learned a new skill. So don't take me as blowing my own trumpet, but then I think it was important, because 5 to 7 years ago, when I heard this, that you have to do this every 30 years, I said, come on, I have so much of work, I'm not going to do all of this. But then I think it really opens up your brain to accept a lot of new things, right? And that is why you will see when you're kids, you're able to learn new languages much faster. And as you get older, maybe you have the intent, you have the attitude to learn, you have all of, but then, the brain has only so much to pick up as a skill. And hence, but you can't, you can't not train your brain. I don't know if you all have heard, even Einstein used only about 7% of his brain's capacity. So, which is, I mean, even with that, if he, if he got us what he's got us to the world, and the brain's elasticity is so much that the more you think, the more you kind of let it work, it it can take more. And unfortunately, after the college or after we get into work, we all think, okay, we've learned everything, and whatever I mean, of course, now thanks to your all the digital assets and digital learning you have, where we're able to capture something, but otherwise you don't make constant effort to learn. So what I'm trying to say is, don't stop learning, because life never stops teaching. So, so if one thing I definitely want to leave with you as a message is, whatever stage of your career you are in, you could be like the CEO of the organization, but never stop learning, because that is what's going to take you to greater heights. So skill, like I said, is really about something you do well, you learn and do well. And knowledge is really the facts, the information, the data points, or the experience, the education, all of that you acquired becomes knowledge. So to me, knowledge becomes the foundation of anything and everything that you do. And skill becomes the learning on top of that that you're doing to ensure you're becoming an expert. So if you ask me, is it knowledge or skill? It's both. In fact, I would put another factor to that, saying attitude as well. Because you could be brilliant. I mean, you can have all the worldly knowledge and you will be able to, deliver all and or demonstrate this with the great skill that you have. But if you do not have the right attitude, it's not going to take you longer. When I was hiring, right, be it your senior leadership team, be it your the graduate trainees like you, the first thing that we would look at is what's the attitude that they bring to the table. Because learning, if you really make up your mind, I think anybody can learn. Right? But if you do not have the right attitude, it's going to be very difficult for anyone to fit into an organization culture. And an organization is almost like, it's like a lot of people, and a lot of people put together means a lot of cultures, a lot of different mindset and so on. And hence, if you do not have the right attitude to fit into those organizations or fit into those, fit into those environment, all the brilliant knowledge that you have, all the brilliant skill that you have, well, you can just keep it in the fridge. So attitude is everything. And I know, the definition of attitude is different to different people. But again, an attitude which allows you to get along with people and appreciate the flaws, and acknowledge some of the things. Because especially in corporates, what's going to happen is you will never have a room full of people who are going to say, yes, what you're saying is right?
Yeah,
Of the
true.
people that you talk to, of the 100 people you talk to, you will always have, say, about 10 or 15% of them who will be absolutely against you. But that is okay. And as you know, the right attitude is to say, okay, I agree to disagree, and we move on. So so to me, the English of skills and knowledge is that, and that's how I look at it. And given there are a lot of learning programs that I've developed and a lot of coaching that I do, this is something very, very ground basic. It's just not you guys. Even when I have coach CEOs, this is something which I kind of talk to them. And yes, they are a little in awe, saying, really, but I think I'm so good at this. Yes, you can be so good at everything. But if you do not have the right attitude to take care of people, to promote people, to identify the goodness in people, it's not going to take you far. And well, if you do not have this right skill, in fact, there's a model in learning development called ask, which is attitude, skills, and knowledge. So generally, that's a model that we use when we are training some of the senior leaders. And it's really important for all of the senior guys to have the ask attitude, the ask trait / behavior in everything and anything that they do. And I have also had instances being in, doing the employee relations role. The leaders could have been extremely great and would have delivered $1 million benefit and so on. But then because of attitude, we've even asked them to leave because they don't know how to deal with employees. They shout at them. So all of that is not going to go well, because a corporate organization is very different. And unfortunately or fortunately, all of us have to wear different masks. When you're at home,
Yes.
you're different. When friends, you're different. And a corporate world is even more different, because you're always in a watch, and it's just not what you deliver brings the results for yourself, but also what people's perceptions. also plays a role. There's a lot of optics you build unknowingly, but at least with all these sessions that you're going through, I'm sure you're going to gather something out of it.
Right.
So yes, so there are multiple skills like enterprise skills, communication skills, workplace skills. So you can Google a lot of these things and find. Honestly, I could have got a deck, but then I just want this to be interactive, because I thought with the deck, I will also get stuck with the deck saying, okay, I have to deck points and so on.
True.
But I thought, this is some topic which we've been like, it's just been a part of whatever we do in our work life. So I thought, okay, let me not really get like a deck and get stuck with it, and let it be really free flow. And you would see slowly that's how the world's going. Nobody's, people are changing, no more decks. It's really interactive. It's really the brilliance and the knowledge that you bring to the table rather than the colorful spreadsheets. But again, if you're in sales and if you're in marketing, yes, you have to be really, really good with that. So don't take my statement just as is, and apply it the way that it fits in your world. So some of the employability skills. So a few years ago, when we had to hire for people, when it was skills, it was really looking at the roles, the skills that was related for the role alone, right? And if you're in HR, you got to be people friendly. If you are in accounts, you got to be detail oriented. If you're in engineering, you should exactly know how to write the codes without mistakes, or you should be able to write efficient codes. So those were the skills that we were looking at probably say 10, 15 years ago. But now recently, in the last 5 to 7 years, there's this huge project which everyone in the world is doing, which is called strategic workforce planning. What this means, what this means is looking at the workforce from the employability skills that they bring to the table. It's not about you're an engineer or you're accountant or you're a robotic engineer. So it's not on those skills, because that anyway we believe the institutes that we have in the world is creating such brilliant people like yourself on the call. And but the employability skills are something which is more good communication, motivation that you bring to the table, leadership, reliability, following instructions sometimes, because in today's world, a lot of DIY is coming to picture. So you can't say, I'll just break the rule and do something. You won't get the outcome. Teamwork, patience, adaptability, and learning. Learning is something, and resilience, of course. Learning is something which you will find will have the topmost priority in anything and everything that we are doing today. It's no longer learning ends at a certain age or whatever. And I think for any of us to be relative in the market, learning becomes key. And the learning philosophy, I don't know, maybe you've had a lot of others. You must have had a lot of other speakers as well. I reckon they must have talked about it, but I just want to put this in your head, saying the learning philosophy is 70-20-10. What that means is 10% of learning that you learn in sessions like this, right? Even if you actually capture 10 minutes of what I shared with you today, that will be great. So the belief is, in a learning philosophy, 10% is what you learn in sessions like this, and 20% is something that you learn by, like with a mentor or with a coach or a buddy or your professors for the matter. So that's 20%, and 70% is on the job. So what you really learn when you're doing something. When I say on the job, obviously, I'm sure you haven't still gotten into that mode, but anything that you practically do becomes 70% of your learning.
Absolutely.
And so if you see, 20 years ago, the learning methodology was, when we hire people, we'll put everyone in a room like a cattle, and we used to get them to, okay, this is
the induction part.
Yes. And we will get somebody to say, okay, you have to do this program. So for the first 15 days, they're only learning. And after that, nobody worries about, if they're learning or whatever. After that, it is, okay, I have this job, you have to do. But if you, and given, with my time, I have seen how this has evolved, and it's brilliant, right? And today we are very practical. Even your induction has become online. And some of the organizations, you will see induction has become gamified. Because you got to react to how the customers look at things. And when we have people joining the organization, all the employees who are joining, you will have to treat them, accept what they bring to the table. And today's millennials, like you guys, Gen Zs, if you guys come into the organization and we tell you, you know what, there is a 10-day program, all 8 hours you have to sit at one place and learn, it's going to be impossible, right? For me, even after 20 years, I'm still restless saying, oh my God, I haven't done this, I haven't done this. So I can imagine you guys going to
So
be.
with the same context, Geetha, one thing I just wanted to ask, see, now there are a lot of transitions happening and rather the transformation happening. So I'm sure as an HR, we have planned to transmute the work culture and the business. When especially in this pandemic situation, I think there is a huge transformation or the changes what you guys might have thought or might have bought in. So can you just throw some light as to how now, with this pandemic situation, how are things transforming? How are things changing?
Okay. Good question. Because, honestly, in an organization, when something is coming and every organization plans for the next 2 years, saying, okay, this is my FY21 plan, is my FY22 plan. And hence we would always plan. We exactly knew what was coming. But, this thing turned from epidemic to pandemic and none of us were planned. And I don't think anyone were ready for it. It just blew on our face and we had to quickly pick up the things and run, because we still had employees who were joining. So we can't tell them, you know what, it's pandemic, we don't want you to join now. It's going to show the organization in poor light. So we had to pick up some of the things just on the run and, run with the things. But that was also learning. So I'm going to just call it some of the things which looked very simple, but then obviously it was an effort, right? For example, as simple as, people like yourself joining us, right? Or college graduates joining us, they would have been looking so much forward for their workplace, their desks, and, and of course, and we give this entire kit of your, the branded T-shirt, the coffee mug with the Finister brand. So if you get everything, and it's a great feeling for someone who's getting out of a college to say, you know what, this is my organization.
Yes.
And when it happened, we had to tell them, you know what, we can't give you any of that, nor can we get you into office. So we had to do online onboarding, and if at least if it's lateral, they would know that they're an organization, this is how it works. And for graduate trainees like yourself, it was very funny. They'll say, yeah, I'm at home and nothing changes for me. And we were not even able to give the laptop in the first 2 weeks. So we said, okay, there's a phone, so we'll call you on phone and you can just be buddy with your teammates. So it was quite funny for them. But I think, yeah, of course, in 2 to 3 weeks, we found, shipment, and we were able to send the laptops, and yeah, we were able to phase it out. But again, the culture, what we want to build completely changes, right? Because when we want to hire people, the first thing we want to, the feeling that we want to give them is belongingness. When you're joining an organization, we want you to feel like you belong here. And that is why a lot of efforts taken where there's an individual who talks to you guys throughout the day when you join. The leaders will come and talk to you. There's an entire team who will come and, build rapport with you. So all of that, is prepared so that that we are happy to get you in the organization. We are ready. We're waiting for you to come and so on. So this obviously, threw us out of shape. But well, thankfully, the guys who are joining us were very understandable, and they knew that we were not the only organization. So they understood that. So that's on the onboarding. But look at the rest of the organization, the way we had to operate, right? There were so many releases that we had to do. And being in a fintech, there are, a lot of dependency on the products that we develop. 90 of the 100 banks use Finister products. And all those banks were dependent on the products that we are developing. And when there's a product development company, you will know that, every now and then there is a release, there is a bug fix, and they'll find something new. There's a new functionality, there's a new module. So it keeps happening. And that is how this company runs, honestly. And so you can't say, we don't want to do this because it's pandemic. And to do all of this, you've got to be in a setup where it is collaborative, where, when 10 engineers sit together and say, hey, this is not working, can you check this? And then someone else will create. So from that to all of them sitting wherever they want to and doing, this one was very, very, very difficult. But then I think, I don't know if it's the humans or it is the pressure that the job applies. People were amazing. Because the productivity for us, we thought it's going to be slashed to like 30-40%. But our productivity is stuck at 80 to 85%, which is brilliant. Wow. Especially when we don't have managers who are overseeing them and so on. And I think that is the skill of ownership, right? If everyone has an ownership in them, I think everything else is going to be brilliant. And that is why a lot of organizations have one of the culture as ownership. And when you say ownership, it is all about owning the problem. If a piece of work is given to you, the next person should not follow up with you, and that is how you will showcase your skill of being demonstrating ownership. And that's one of the things. The other one is engagement. From an HR perspective, we generally used to do a lot of engagement for the employees. This session, that session, all of you come. There's this, someone is coming, meet up with them. There's an insurance, whatever. Suddenly all of this had to become online. So yes, it was a very, very different challenge. It's almost like war with yourself. And I had employees calling me. We have about 4,000 employees, and you can imagine how many calls I must have got. They were calling me every now and then saying, can we come to work? Can we come to work? I was like, Arey, I thought all of you wanted to work from home. What's wrong? But that's when they realized the importance of being in an office, right? Because it's a very different environment. It's a lot of productivity, light, and connections, network. All of this is so important. And humans thrive on network and people. I know we love our family, and but how long can you just sit with them and see them for months together? So I think, these were some of the things, but we've been even re-looking at our policies and some of the procedures and looking at some of the roles in itself. In fact, we created a role called Chief Fun Officer, who sits in Paddington, and he's trying to create some fun element and so on. So yeah, in situations like this, yes, life threw us a lemon and we made lemonade out of it, if I could say.
Right, that's so nice. Have you been in a situation where you were in a, it was difficult for you to choose between knowledge and skill while interviewing? Have you encountered any such situation wherein you were like, in a situation where you had to pick between the knowledge and the skill?
Happens all the time, because for example, when you're looking for a particular job, there are the description of 10 skills and 50 knowledge. But then when you're making the assessment, you pretty much look, yes, the person comes with certain skill and certain knowledge, but you always look at the attitude that the person brings to the table. Does he have learnability? Even if the person is a 70% match, I don't mind taking him, because he's showing interest that he'll learn. He's showing likedness towards the growth for himself. So these are things which will be a huge decision making change for people. So, and by the way, you will always have the challenge of choosing between these two, because nobody comes with 100% fit. Even if you are graduate trainees with probably say 9 for 10 or 9.8 CGPA for 10, when it comes to a job, there would be certain things that you're really good at and certain things you may not fit into, and that's a reality. So in such instances is where your natural self, your persona, who you are, is what will make the difference. And see, for me, though I'm an HR person, for me, I have moved from traditional to the modern HR. So you will find a lot of my views very mixed and very, more than mixed, I would say very forward thinking. A lot of my, initiatives and things that I do itself, people will say, oh, HR doesn't do this. But then later, after a few years, people say, oh yeah, we have to follow the trend. So you'd find a lot of my viewpoint very future looking. So, I'm just giving that viewpoint so that Plus, you will be hearing a lot of these people just like me. So you will find something very traditional, which is, for someone who's working in a manufacturing unit, you will find them extremely traditional with HR, and that is how they are supposed to be. And for a startup culture, it's even more different, right? Just before this, I was in a startup environment. I was HR, but I was doing everything. So as students, what you should be looking at is, hear everyone out, right? It's all of this is knowledge for you. Hear everyone out, but you are your own boss. So you got to make judgments, you got to make decisions based on what works for you. And that's a differentiator, because everyone will come and give gyan. I'll give gyan based on what I have learned. Maybe it won't work for you, and so be it. But it's for you to pick up what works for you, right? Everyone has their own style. Everyone has their own way of doing things. So there's one thing you should definitely remember: it's creating your own style of doing things. Yeah, and that's how I think that's how everybody grows. As you grow in a career, you look at a lot of people and say, I want to pick up this from this person, that from this person, and unknowingly you become an individual of yourself, and keep up your own identity, so to say. And I just have the last point that I wanted to talk about. This century is all about 4 C's. So just, and generally, I don't know, as a kid, I always remembered everything with an acronym. Until now, that was what has saved me, okay? Everything is an acronym for me, and that's how I remember. The 4 C's is communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. So communication is pretty, evident, where you're able to articulate your thoughts. Very, very important, right? Some of them, some of them are very brilliant, but they won't be able to articulate their thoughts, and you lost the game. You have to articulate your thoughts. It's okay if it's incorrect. It's okay if it is wrong, but articulate your thoughts. Communicate. Collaboration, because in today's environment, you have to get everyone together, and you'll have to, grow. You can't be a siloed person and grow, because a siloed person is only so much you can learn, right? The combined, the cohesive knowledge of the team, or the set of people that you're working with, is what makes you brilliant. And it's a win-win. So a collaborative environment is very positive. There's a lot of energy, and everybody is driving for results. So even if you find an environment which is not collaborative, make an effort to make it collaborative, because then you become the specialist out there. Critical thinking, it's about challenging status quo. Critical thinking is all about challenging status quo. But again, you have to be balanced in doing that. I'm using this statement because of my son, because we've been teaching him, you have to, critically think about everything and so on. But it's come to an extent where he critiques everything. so so you have to just apply balance as to where you're where you're doing critical thinking. Like some of the things like the law of nature, you can't apply critical thinking there. That's how it's going to work. Yeah, but in a work environment, when you see a process, when you see people, when you see some of the delivery is not happening well, apply critical thinking. Say, oh, maybe there's a different way to do this, or challenge somebody. You have to challenge, because I know when we get out of the college, a lot of niceties taught to us, saying you have to be accommodative, you have to be nice. All of that is great, but you also got to challenge the status quo, because that's when you're thinking. And creativity. I know it's creative is a right brain thing. A lot of them say creativity is only girls, girls do this and so on. But in today's world, everyone does creativity. Look at all the games the boys play. Oh my God, it's so difficult to even come up to terms with that. In fact, I'm sure all of you know about Minecraft. Yeah. I'm sure all the kids know. If you're just unmuted, I would have heard a lot of I know this. I know a lot of parents would, stop children from playing Minecraft. But then I recently learned that in Microsoft Satya Nadella, there was one of those girls, one of the employees' daughters, came to one of the talks, and she explained how Minecraft is really helping her understand some of the things. Because Minecraft is all about, there's nothing, right? You create everything. And for us, I think 20 years ago, it was all about everything was there. You just had to play the game. You have to create the game and play for yourself. So yeah, that's the 4 C's. So honestly, if you ask me, what should you really remember out of this session? Yes, with skills and knowledge, definitely attitude that you bring to the table is a differentiator. And employability skills, there are so many employability skills, but creating your own style of doing some of the things will be your differentiator. And the 4 C's, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity is something, if you can remember forever, it's going to help. On that note, in fact, even as of now, I'm still learning. I just picked up a new art called kintsugi. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. It's a Japanese art. It is about sticking broken pots.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds funny, right? But then what really stuck with me was the fact that it was all about appreciating the flaws, right? Because today the entire world's talking about, oh, you got to be perfect, you got to do this and do that and so on. And yet, yes, we all thrive for it. But, well, there is only so much you can get to. So this kintsugi is all about, yes, people come with flaws and you've got to accept it. And this sticking the broken parts is with gold, like pure gold dust. And that is the highlight. So if you ever get a chance to, Google kintsugi, take a look at it. I was carried away with the story or the context of why kintsugi came into existence. And hence I learned. So yeah, the point why I'm saying this is you can't stop learning. It need not just be in what you're working. It can be anything. It can be doing a pottery, doing kintsugi. Who knew? I mean, I never knew a few years ago that I would learn kintsugi. But yeah, here's my goal. Every year I'm going to learn something new. Yeah, I'm going to keep my brain ticking and working. So yeah, that's what I want to share with you guys. And here I am. If you have any questions, go ahead and post. I think Rashmi, or how do we
Yes.
go? They'll
Yes.
ask.
Before that, I just have a question, Geetha. Now that my it is a mixture of B.Tech and MBA students in the out of the crowd. So most of them are undergoing projects, internships, and some certifications and all that. So how would you categorize them? Would that be a part of a skill, or would that be a part of their knowledge? How would you categorize them while judging them on employability?
So what they're learning now, the academics and the experience through internship, all of that to me is knowledge, because like I said, it becomes foundation. And skill is when they are working on something, right? When they're developing their skill based on the
Yes.
knowledge. Like how do I differentiate knowledge and skill, for example?
Yeah, I know it's a thin line though.
Yes, you learn some. I mean, so you read in your B.Tech books as to how do you do certain things, and when you go on an internship, you apply it. The application
Right.
is the more you apply it, the more you learn is how you become more skilled. And like when you look at abroad, if you're trying to kind of go abroad and study, or not study, more settle abroad, the first thing is about they look. I mean, the entire world looks at skilled workforce, but the skilled workforce can be created only if you have the base knowledge. So yeah,
Right.
I
So
think
these are going to work out as a strong foundation
absolutely.
before this kickstart on the practical exposure. That's great. All right. So we have a couple of questions coming in, Geetha. We have the first question with from Mr. Mohammed Imran. When artificial intelligence is taking a big pie in every sector, which skill would help us in a sustainable future?
Okay, great question. So see, with if you see, we've evolved so much from where we were to where we are, right? And I mean, like, in fact, you guys are all called as digital natives because you were born with technology and phone and internet and so on. So with artificial intelligence taking over, what's going to happen is every roles that are going to be created are going to become much more intelligent roles. So as of now, if you see what artificial intelligence can do, is instructed a same set of work, same monotonous work is what you could get AI to pick up and do, right? And
Right.
hence what will happen is you need intelligent people to manage AI. So the roles are no longer going to be monotonous, and hence the roles that will come in the future will be intelligent roles where you'll have to manage AI. And I know, from for years I've had this question saying, with AI coming, what's going to happen to my job, what's going to happen to my career and so on. I would really say you should be proud, because you're no longer going to do monotonous work, right? No, in fact, for even in hiring, it has changed so much. No longer do we have recruiters who pick up the call and say, hey, do you want to, there's a job. We have a bot which is already designed for that. The bot pretty much talks, and based on the information, then we decide, okay, now I've used the recruiter to just do 10 calls instead of 100 calls. So that's how I'm looking at the roles being evolved in the future. So for example, I know even with Tesla, when they came with driverless cars, because I have this answer always, right? So people came up and said, you always say this, now what happens with Tesla? I said, yeah, if you have driverless cars, then you need intelligent people to manage the car, right?
Absolutely.
Getting paid as a driver for a month, you would become an engineer who's able to look at the holistic car, and maybe whatever you're making in a day, you're going to make in an hour. So yeah, that's how the world's changing, and thanks to human mind, we're able to we are able to even think faster and grow faster than the technology.
All right. So we have another question from Mayank. Since everyone is talking about the Industry 4.0, what are in your views the conventional study program in which the advanced technology world would be considered, and how the old conventional way, that is, which is memorizing the theory and clearing the exams, can make a match between the students with Industry 4.0?
So, like we were talking, knowledge definitely is power, right? So you cannot get away from that. For example, I mean, if you didn't learn your ABC, I don't think we could have gotten to where we are. So, knowledge is definitely power. So what you're learning will remain. But from the examination point of view, I won't be able to comment. But however, from a practical point of view, it's not that only the guys who got a 10 on 10 GPA have done very well in, in the corporate world. People who applied practical knowledge, people who, applied some of this practical knowledge and applied or learned applied the learnings that they've had in some of these things are the ones who are very successful. So if you compare between academics and the real world, it's again to be two different things. While I know all of us still chase our children to say get good marks, but honestly, it's the practicality of the application which is going to be the differentiator.
Right. Well answered. We have Shiv Kumar. Yeah. Moving on to the next question, we have Shiv Kumar. What qualities are important to be a successful in this position? Or rather, I would say in any position you desire. What are the, the set of quality which is very important?
See, it's different for different people, right? It's different for different people, and some people learn it with experience. Some people learn it because they had somebody to teach them. But if you ask me, having the right attitude, and we talked about it. So it's, and again, you should be very good at your work and then have a right attitude. It's going to complement. If you don't do your work, if you're not knowledgeable, if you don't have the skill and you have the right attitude, it's like, having the crown without the base. So yeah, so your basic skills, you got to be very strong. And given you're in a very, very early stage, there are a lot of opportunities for you to watch people, for you to learn from others' mistakes, or in fact, have like a mentor for yourself. Because sometimes what happens is having a mentor will be much more nicer because they're going to show the real picture of you. And, if, for example, if your parents come and say, hey, you're not doing this well, we're never going to accept it, will you? You'll say, come on, I know this better. But if you have a mentor or a teacher or someone that you trust, because, you kind of differentiate family and, your career growth, right? And when you have a mentor say something, even if you're kind of not able to accept it, but it's the truth and you're going to work on it. So what will lead you to success is really about having the basic knowledge, being very good at what you're doing, and having the right attitude.
Right.
And trust me, though you're having the right attitude, at times it could just topple you off because you will be so nice and nobody around you will be so nice. But well, you can't change yourself. You got to create yourself. And this is the perfect time for you to create yourself. So don't let the external environment do harm to how you're trying to grow for yourself.
Right. Another question, Geetha, how to remain positive and energetic in this competitive marketplace?
So when you wake up in the morning, I think you got to tell yourself, I'm going to be positive, and don't see, I think what in the Indian mentality, what happens is if someone says something, we take it very personally. Right. And if you look at, in fact, from a culture perspective, I could talk. When I have taught culture to people with American and the Indian, in the Indian context, when we talk, we always say, even in an interview, I've seen people say this, we have done this, we did this together. And then if you actually interview an American, the guy is going to say, I did this, and I did this well, I didn't do this well. So if you see, we are always with this group mentality, which is great, teamwork, all of that is great. But when you have to think of yourself, you got to give credit for yourself. You have to be harsh to yourself. So, given that in the backdrop, who can make you feel positive is only you. And how can that be? By, yes, you will always have a bunch of your friends who will probably say good things. You'll also have a bunch of your friends who will not say so good things. But it is for you to make the choice of what are you going to take to make it work. For example, if somebody on the road came up and told you, hey, you're not doing well, you're not going to be worried, right? I mean, why would you be worried? But if someone in your house or your best friend, somebody said, you're going to be, you don't like it, it's going to hurt you, and that is where it is going to create negativity, right? So that is where you're going to stand for yourself and say, it's okay, someone has told something, I'll reflect on it and park it for the night. Before you go to sleep, just reflect on it. look at it and say, should I work on this? And if you as an individual think you've got to work on it, you work on it. Otherwise, don't. So, I mean, that's how you can be positive, by not letting the negative people make your decisions. You make your decisions.
Right. Another question, I think it is almost answered, but still, let me just read it out to you if you want to throw some more light. Um, Being a pro in a particular, skill, or someone having a few knowledge of everything, so which can be a more demanded quality you will be looking for? I mean, which one you would pick rather?
Sorry, repeat the question. I didn't catch it quite well.
Right. So what I was asking is, being a pro in a particular skill, or being someone with few knowledge of everything.
Okay, got
So
it. Of all. Trying to be a jack of all.
Yes.
Right? So again, it really depends on the roles, right? I mean, if you are an architect, you got to be deep down. You got to really know the depth, the insight of what you're doing. But if you're doing like a generalist, like a program management or like a manager job, you just got to be, kind of on the surface and need not be in depth. So it really depends on the profession that you choose. And again, it's on the choice that you make. If you ask me, when I grew up, I was very in depth in everything, because you got to know everything as to why you're doing. And I was a lot of eye for detail. But now there's only so much I can do. So, I believe in the experts who are doing the job. And I try to stay away, and I'm like jack of all now. So I think career kind of frames when you can be, playing either or of these roles. But yeah, people like scientists, they can never be jack of all. They got to be in depth. They got to be like super good in what they're doing. So yeah, some of the roles really decide what works well.
Right. We have Shivam who has another question. He says, how do you calculate the package of a person should get? Is it based on the skills?
Okay, good question. So there is this entire activity called job evaluation. So job evaluation is all about qualitative measurement, qualitative statements measured with quantitative statements. So, for example, when we evaluate a particular job, they will say, okay, in this job, the person will have to do this kind of work. The person will have to manage this kind of people. The complexity of the work is so much, and the interactions that they have to do with is just not the team, but it is local, global. So there's a weightage which is given to all these statements which forms a job. And based on the weightage, there is a particular score that every job gets. And based on that, there is a compensation benchmark which happens saying, okay, if this is what the score is, then and at this level, the compensation this person can get minimum is so much and maximum is so much. So it is a huge exercise, by the way. If you guys thought, okay, these guys come with whatever, some 3 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs. There's a lot of work which goes into it, and that's a science, and that is a science that in HR we apply to ensure that we are in par with the market, that we are evaluating and giving the right thing for the people. So that's calculated. If you didn't know it, in fact, that itself is a job. There are people for 20 years they've just done only job evaluation, and that is an in-depth job, if you ask me. So for 20 years they do that, and that's the only thing they do know, and they do it so well. So that's an in-depth job. If you ask me, do I know job evaluation well? I don't know. But what I would do, I would just hire somebody like that. So he's happy that he's an expert, and I'm happy I got the expert, and I'm still able to do what I'm doing. So that's all.
So thank you so much. A lot of internal things are coming out, I would say. The internal HR exercises are coming out. So good going, students. Good to bring out so many, topics. One more thing, I think Abhishek has this question: how to prepare for an off-campus placement? And do you think off-campus placement is good?
Okay, so for me, campus placement or off-campus placement, it's your choice. But how do you prepare? It's going to be the same, because it's going to be the same employers, right? Whatever employees you get here, it's going to be the same employers there. Because even if it is your own college or university, I don't think any of your professors are going to go and tell this company saying, hey, you know what, this guy is good. That's not going to happen. They'll always say, I'm sorry, I'm using the word employees. So university is always going to say all my students are good, right? I mean, because they studied in this institute. So, and it's the same knowledge we have, precipitated to all of them. So everyone's good. And that's how the university would sell. Likewise, when you go to an external, you won't have somebody to flag you off and say, hey, he's the candidate, but you would be pretty much on your own. This is almost like, somebody holding your hand and taking you and leaving you, and then you're on your own. This one is, you don't even have a path. You're just one of the rest of them, and the chances could be slightly lesser. But yeah, I mean, it's for the risk takers. I mean, if you're not very risk averse, then try both.
Right. All right. Going on to the next question. I think we're almost done.
Okay, great.
Last one, I would say. Let me just pick one of it. So, how to prepare yourself for a successful day?
For a successful day? Okay.
Abhishek has this question.
Great question. In fact, this is a question which comes from kids to even people who are about 50 to 60 years old at this point of time. So it's absolutely in your hand. But what I have learned from people is, when you wake up, you definitely wake up positively, and you should have a good night's sleep. Very, very important, because in today's world, I think a lot of us are so tugged with this mobile and your gaming and watching movies, whatever. So, and Netflix and Prime and whatnot. I mean, everything is great, even I do. But then till you should have a discipline, right? I mean, if you see people who are very old and who are not working, you will find they have an extremely disciplined life and they're extremely happy. So I think that discipline is what's very important. When I say discipline, it's about having a certain time for certain things. Yes, you wake up at a certain time, you have to exercise, you have to ensure you get good sleep, eat nutritious food, spend time with friends, spend time for TV. Yes, in weekly ones, spoil yourself, do whatever it means. So you've got to be kind. You've got to be kind to yourself and have some discipline, and that will definitely make you go places. Because that consistency is a huge challenge. Consistency in doing this is a huge challenge, because what I told is very simple. All of us can do, right? But then maintaining it, consistently doing it is the challenge. And if you can do that, I think you will see the difference for yourself.
Absolutely. Last question, Geetha. So, if you're busy using your current skill on your job, how can you upgrade our skills?
If you're busy using your skill on your job,
whatever the current attained skills, if you're busy using that skill then during the job, and then it's like maybe you're not able to, the point of view is you're not able to upgrade your skills.
Got it. So like I said, do not stop learning, right? And that is key. So to create a habit of upskilling, what you can do is you can look at yourself and say, today I am here. In next 1 year, I want to learn something. I want to probably learn some technology course. So you just break it into pieces and say, this quarter I want to achieve this. Next quarter I want to achieve this. So it becomes easier for you. In fact, in today's world, in the pandemic world, in the organization that I am in, to ensure that people are still learning every day, what we've done is we've launched something called the LinkedIn Learning. And we're telling people 15 minutes of video you watch. That's something you're learning. And if people say, yes, I want to be an architect, or I want to be a coach, or whatever, there are short videos for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or maybe sometimes you even pick up the phone and talk to someone and say, hey, how did you do this? That itself is a learning. So when you say upskill, does not mean it is in a framework. You have to sit in a classroom, you have to be in the front of, there's nothing like a framework. So upskilling is all about what you want to learn beyond what you already know. And that can be in any form. It can, like I said, it can be a video. It can be just call a friend and check, hey, how did you do this project? Or talk to one of your professors to see, what is their plan that they're going to deliver in the next class. So all of that is learning. All of that is upskilling to me. So do not get carried away with the fact that upskilling comes with kind of different. It comes in a different shape. No, it's just about how you pick up and do things.
Okay, great.
That is my take, and honestly, whatever it is really based on my own experience and not borrowed experience. So what's worked for me, like I said, may work for you, may not work for you, but It's for you to pick up and try and see what works for you. So that said, I would like to wish you all a very best in whatever you're doing. And you guys are the digital natives, so you would know much more than the normal people of our ages. So good luck, and yeah, hopefully, I don't know, with this world the way it's going, if you all survive of it, I think we have a bright future.
Yes. Thank you, Geetha. I'll just hand it over to Mr. Rakesh Jaswal, Manager CRC, for giving a kind word of thanks for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Geetha.
Hi, Rakesh.
It was really a nice webinar.
Thank you.
I would like to express my gratitude to you, share your experience and thought for the students.
Sure. Thank you.
Your word is surely help the student to build a good career. Thank you once again for your presence.
Thank you. Thanks much. Thanks for getting me on. I didn't hear the students, but I hope you guys made something out of it. You got something out of it. I hope it's going to help you in whatever you're up to.
There are a lot of chats coming in. Students are saying thank you to you. It was a great speech. It was a great session. So I'm sure we had a power pack session. This was our last webinar session, just to let you know, but definitely a good one.
Yes.
And on spending some time on Saturday for me and for my students is definitely a blessing. Thank you so much, Geetha, for joining in.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And Rashmi, this was for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, students. Thank you for joining in.
Bye.